Hi, and welcome to today's discussion. I will be discussing what type of methodologies are used for project delivery. And then I will cover a high level, not into too much detail regarding all the current methodologies used. Then I'll be covering hybrid project management methodologies, where there's a combination of these methodologies, and then finally, a brief overview how best to choose the right methodology for your environment. So traditionally, there are traditional methodologies that are used within project management, and so depending on your organization, your structure, each one of those is different. So the three traditional areas I'm going to cover are waterfall methodology, and then I'm going to be doing the CPM, called the critical path method, and then finally the agile project management methodology as well. So let's crack on with the waterfall. So waterfall is a bit of a definition. It's known as the waterfall model. It's a sequential development process that flows like a waterfall. So just think of a waterfall. That's how pretty much where you take you complete one thing at a time and then move along. It's really all done in phases on a project. So, for example, you will do analysis, design, development, and testing, which each phase is completed in a complete wrap, and then you move on to the next phase. Now, the pros for this approach is that it's clear and it's structured. So it gives very clear, no ambiguity. Well, there is always some ambiguity, but less ambiguity than other methodologies. It's easier to manage. The entire project is broken down to distinct phases, which makes it easy to track as well. And you have very clear defined deliverables. Each phase of the project will have a defined deliverable, which makes it easy to measure the success and progress. And it's really good for small projects. Waterfall is ideal for small projects which have a clear set of requirements and a fixed budget. However, the cons, it's very rigid in its approach. It doesn't give you much flexibility, limited customer involvement. It's kind of, get on with it in the background. You don't really have much stakeholder involvement, but you do need some degree of it. Testing comes very late at the end of the process. You could have done a whole load of work and then you test right at the end. And it's not very, in my opinion, it's not really suited for complex projects. It just doesn't fit really well. However, small deliverables, very quick, very efficient, which all bolt into the bigger picture, might play its role in that. The other method is really the critical path method. That's CPM for short. Critical path method is a project management technique used to identify the most critical tasks that must be completed on time for a project to be completed on schedule. Now, that's the definition I pulled off. And it's really, what needs to happen when. Can we do this method? Can we do X before Y, etc.? Those are the kind of methodology that it uses. Now, CPM, it has probably traditionally been used a lot in many environments, and now we are probably moving away from that. Or I would say majority of the organizations have already moved away from that. However, there are some pros on this one. It uses resource quite efficiently if managed correctly. Improve scheduling, so you have a clear plan of what you're doing, and you know what needs to be done in what sequential order. Sometimes you can do things together, etc. So it kind of puts that into context. Better communication. It allows you to have better communication between the project and the stakeholder, which is really important and really key. And it allows you to manage risk really well. It helps you identify risk all throughout the project. What impact will it have, etc. Some of the cons are complexity. It's time consuming. It's very, it does take a lot of your time to build the plans, etc. It does have limited flexibility, but as I'll go into later on, it has evolved quite a bit, and requires real accurate data, so that you don't have all the information at the right time. So unfortunately, there is room for error, and can be costly. The thing is, you can miss things. You can say it's not perfect. But in summary, CPM is effective project management technique, but I would say for complex projects, well-defined task and dependencies. Now, I stress well-defined task and dependencies because anything that has a massive degree of ambiguity will have a negative impact on this process, or this strategy or methodology that you use for CPM. It doesn't fit for smaller projects. I think you don't need to put all that effort in for very, very small projects. The next methodology is agile project management methodology. Now, this is the big buzzword at the moment. It's very flexible, it's very collaborative, continuous improvement approach. And it's based on the Agile Manifesto. This methodology is a set of principles for software development. That's where it's originally come from. And emphasizes individual and interactions, working software with mainly software customers. And there's great collaboration on this, and there's very efficient responding to change. It's very it's very incremental, meaning the project is broken down into smaller parts, more manageable parts. You're delivering a smaller set of subsets very quickly, and it's really good for development work. I've seen it very much in software development, and it's really, really good. However, it can be put into any environment, really, in my opinion. And some of the common agile methodologies are Scrum, Kanban, which you'll hear a lot of in many of the environments. And they're very agile approaches of doing things, etc. It's widely used, like I said, for software development, and it's really there where it sits. But it has been used in manufacturing. It's used in healthcare, education. It's used, and it's pretty much across the board, and it's IT wise in hardware delivery as well, not just simply software. It's been doing that as well. So the pros really so a bit more detail I'm going to go into is Scrum. Scrum is really an agile framework for traditionally managing software development. It's very it's got a very incremental approach, emphasizes on collaboration, flexibility, and continuous improvement. So this is an approach where you do a small subsection, then you move on to the next, and you're always planning in small subsets to get things done. Now, there's loads of pros. Like I said, it's flexible, it's adaptable, focuses on collaboration, faster time to market. You can deliver things a lot quicker because you're focusing on key markets. The energy is focused to get that deliverable done in a set period of time, and it improves quality because you're focused on not just hundreds of things, but one or two specific areas. Cons really requires experienced team members. You need to have some sort of degree of skill set within your team. Again, it's not always suitable for projects, requires good discipline and commitment from a Scrum. You cannot, without good discipline and commitment, i.e. when I say discipline, I mean the ability to focus, manage what you are doing and focus the team so they're going in the right direction. And there isn't an overemphasis on documentation. Now, it can be a con, it can be a pro, depending on the organization or the person you are, but it does have that risk. Kanban is another one. Definition of a Kanban is a lean project management methodology. It uses visualization. So you've probably seen pictures of people putting Post-it stickers everywhere, and that's kind of a Kanban board. So you have a backlog of activities. You then say, okay, I'm doing, it's in progress or done. And then you go through that step-by-step process, and people pick their activities as and when required, so that you basically get the end product done, as quickly as possible. It gives the team more autonomy, shall I say. Pros for Kanban is it's great visualization, and it gives you a clear picture of what's going on. It's flexible. You can move things around. You can start things. You can stop things. It's really good. And it's always got a degree of continuous improvement on it. Kanban, is improving through the whole use of metrics, data analysis, that you can continuously improve how you do stuff, and it reduces waste, which is a massive big winner here. Cons, and it depends on how you take these. Lack of structure, I don't think that's a bit of a problem, but as long as it's steered properly within the team. and then limited predictability. So it's kind of what you are doing for the short term. You can't predict too far ahead. It can create a lack of focus sometimes, but that can be managed. And again, requires discipline and commitment. You need to be very focused and focusing on the team and the activities that you are doing when using Kanban. So now, moving on to the next, really, it's the way the world has moved now is that hybrid project management has kicked in, and it's really it's a mix of agile methodologies such as Kanban, Scrum, and a bit of, I would say, critical path as well. That's all come into play. And it's really what the most industry standards are moving forward. Most companies are using the phrase agile. However, in my opinion, are not always incorporating agile or are not set up to be agile. And there are prime examples where you sit in a Scrum meeting, which should be 15 minutes or whatever defined time you set. However, it becomes it becomes a discussion about X, Y, and Z and so forth. And it totally loses the focus of a Scrum meeting. And yes, I have seen it in many organizations where agile waterfall hybrid method has been brought into its fold, but unfortunately it's not 100% quite there. But I think there's, by having this hybrid approach, I think there's loads of pros and cons. And some pros are, it provides structure and predictability so you can plan and do that, but it offers flexibility at the same time. It incorporates best practices, which, from the agile approach, from the critical path approach, waterfall approach, and then it brings it all together as under one umbrella, which is I see as a real good positive for allowing you to move projects. And again, it can improve collaboration because some, like waterfall, there's not a lot of collaboration, but agile there is, CPM there is, so it brings all that in. Cons, it can bring in a load of complexity now because you're bringing in different methodologies and different approach, but managed correctly, it will get done. Requires experience in project management. You've got to you can't just pick it up. You can pick it up, but it takes time to really learn how to do the bare basics, and can be challenging for some team members. It's a cultural shift as well, so you have to manage that and so forth. But the real difficulty now is really at the end is once you've got all these methodologies, choosing the right methodology. How do you choose the right methodology? And that's a real challenge in itself. Your organization is a big thing. Your culture of the people is really important. Evaluate each process. Is waterfall what you're doing for small little projects? Could you combine that? Is Scrum, Kanban, all those things, are we going to be able to do that because we can put things into 2-week, 3-week chunks, whatever that might be? Or do we go down the critical path where we need to see the bigger whole picture and see where that goes? Now, again, like I said, it's the hybrid approach. You bring all three together in some respects. Waterfall, maybe not so much, but I have seen more of agile, such as Scrum and Kanban, with the critical path to say, okay, well, we've got the bigger picture, and this is what we're doing. And really, my top 3 points really to make a clear decision is: 1 is your organization, 2 is understanding your culture within your business, because the cultural change will need to take effect, and that's really key. And 3 is what is best for the type of project you deliver. Those 3 I think is best, because the budget, costs, and all those things come into effect. So in summary, I've gone through the three types of project methodologies out there, which are commonly used. Waterfall, you've got critical path method, and then you've also got the agile project management, which has Scrum and a few others. And as an organization or an individual, all these methodologies have a place and a part to play in your delivery. It's how you bring them together to best suit your business. I hope that was helpful, and thank you for listening.